Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Lori Trahan, and I'm so grateful to all of you for taking the time to tune into our virtual discussion on the American Rescue Plan and how this historic relief package has bolstered our efforts to defeat COVID-19 and accelerate our economic recovery. We're so fortunate to be joined today by two outstanding guests, both of whom are senior leaders at the State House and serve on the leadership team of Speaker Mariano. But before I get to their introductions, list their incredible credentials, and jump into our discussion, it's important that you know what relief to expect from the American Rescue Plan and the effects we're seeing already thanks to this historic investment. So if you're not familiar with the American Rescue Plan, this is the most recent COVID-19 relief package that was put forward by President Biden shortly after he took office on January 20th. We passed this package in Congress and it was signed into law just last month. And this legislation provides the relief that working families need to keep a roof over their heads, put food on the table, and ensure that they keep their health care coverage without having to choose between prioritizing their family's health or covering their bills. You know, an important one for me as a mom of two little girls was the robust funding to make sure that our schools could reopen safely for our students and our educators, and funding to rescue our nation's childcare system on the brink of collapse. Now, the American Rescue Plan also allocates additional funding for small businesses with targeted relief finally set aside for family-owned businesses and our restaurants that have been hit especially hard over the past year. This relief package also ensured veterans wouldn't have co-pays for COVID treatment retroactive to last April, assistance for our regional transit agencies, one that I know we'll be talking about during this event, and much needed funding to help state and local governments keep essential workers like our first responders, our public health officials, and our teachers paid and on the job. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan's investment in vaccine manufacturing and distribution, more than 200 million vaccine doses have been administered nationwide, and over half of all adults have gotten at least one shot. 2 out of every 3 older adults are fully vaccinated, and notably, daily COVID-related deaths are down 75%. Just last week, we got updated economic numbers that show that 1 million new jobs have been created in the last 100 days. Average household income is up, and unemployment claims are continuing to drop. Now, this is great progress, but this is just the tip of the iceberg as more funding from the American Rescue Plan continues working its way into our communities. And I look forward to keeping you all updated as that happens. Now, I could talk for hours about the relief that's in this bill because I just touched upon some of it, but because it goes far beyond what I've already covered. But I've kept our guests waiting long enough. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce two representatives who I have the pleasure of working with to delivering for folks across the 3rd District and who I'm grateful to be able to call friends as well. Our first guest is Representative Kate Hogan, who represents the 3rd Middlesex District, which is made up of Bolton, Hudson, Maynard, and Stowe, recently named to House Speaker Ron Mariano's leadership team as Speaker Pro Temp, making her the highest ranking LGBTQ member in the legislature's history. Representative Hogan has been a vocal advocate for strengthening our economy and improving our healthcare system. Her efforts to get the communities that she represents through the challenges created by the pandemic over the past year have been nothing short of Herculean. But that's no news to those of us who have had the pleasure of working closely with Representative Hogan. I'm so grateful that you could take time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Welcome, Representative Hogan.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And let me just say very quickly, because I know time is of the essence, that I really want, if I could please shout out to your staff. We have all been on the phones for a year, helping people through, helping hand of recovery, anything that we can do for our constituents. And it has been a seamless process with your office. And my gratitude can't really be expressed except to say thank you to you and to your magnificent team. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Yes, there is a whole ecosystem behind each one of us. And they so often don't get the acknowledgement that they deserve, but they're picking up the phone every single day, and we're all working together to make sure that our constituents get the service that they that they deserve. So thank you for giving a shout out to our team and right back at your team as well. Our second guest, like Representative Hogan, doesn't need an introduction. Representative Frank Moran proudly represents 17th Essex District, which includes parts of Lawrence, Methuen, and Andover in the State House. And he was also recently appointed to Speaker Mariano's leadership team as the 3rd Division Chair. Born in the Dominican Republic, Representative Moran moved to Lawrence with his family at just 8 years old, and he has always worked with a focus on delivering for his community, first as a city councilor and now as a representative. Having worked with him personally since I first took office, I can say that his reputation as a results-driven public servant who consistently goes above and beyond to make the lives of his constituents better is spot on. I couldn't be more grateful to have him as a partner in the State House, and I'm so glad he could join us today. Welcome, Representative Moran.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you. I want to echo what Leader Hogan said. Your staff is tremendous during this pandemic. They helped us navigate through a lot of the information that we needed to provide for our constituents in my district, and I can't thank you enough for always being here in the city of Lawrence. I feel like you live here because you're always here. It's a change, right? I'm not used to seeing a congressperson in my district, in the city, especially the city of Lawrence, so often like you do.
Well,
and we do appreciate you for doing that. You make us feel part of the process. You make us feel, that you care for our communities, and I want to thank you for that.
well, thank you. And, just for folks who are out there and need our assistance, definitely, don't ever hesitate to call. Certainly 978-459-0101 is the number to call our office. House.trahan.gov is our website that has so many resources and so many, ways to contact the office if you need assistance. So let's jump into the questions, because there's so many questions that came in and there's a lot on folks' minds, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I'd love to hear from you both on this first one. We'll start with Representative Hogan, if that's all right with you. But when you look at the progress we've made, both in your district and across the state, what would you say has been a key investment from the American Rescue Plan? And as funding from this relief package continues working its way into our communities, what would you say families should be keeping an eye out for?
Well, first and foremost, the thing that was so impressive was the arrival of the PPP loans to small business. A year ago, we remember where we were. We were sort of holding our breath. Those of us that prayed, and those that didn't were kind of learning to. But what happened was help arrived from the federal government. And we got to talk to folks in restaurants and in small business and on Main Street that really were afraid they weren't going to make it. And by the ability to offer the PPP loans, we not only offered some monies to keep on staff, to keep the doors open, but we offered hope that maybe, just maybe, if they're able to hang on, keep people employed, keep the doors open, pivot in any way they have to, that they'll be able to make it. And I think from there to where we are today with those loans, you have people that I have seen the face of when I've told them they've gotten a loan, they've continued to get loans, and there's joy there, but a relief that really is hard to describe, except you're there, you're really there experiencing it. So I think that those kinds of investments, and again, going into what's coming, are going to be the kinds of investments that get us through, that we're going to build back better, just like our president is saying and our Congress is doing. So, those loans have been essential to keeping workers employed and businesses knowing that there's a future. And that was so critical through this entire year. So thank you.
Oh, you bet. And it's such an important point. Those PPP loans actually were a lifeline for so many of our small businesses. And now the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is coming in to bolster that program. Same question for you, Representative Moran.
One of the things that I saw with this was that it put money into people's pockets and of working families, right? And it helped a lot of our small businesses, communities retain their workers and it doubled down on our nation's effort to implement steady rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. One of the other things I saw was that direct support, for our middle-class families and children. You just mentioned the restaurant rehabilitation fund. That's I'm loving what I'm seeing is this is going to help our restaurants to stay afloat. I saw during the past year or so, I saw so many restaurants in my community close their doors because they had nowhere to go. And my office did so much work on trying to make sure that they don't close their doors, because they employ a lot of people, as you know. They're a source of of jobs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people lost their jobs, and I'm looking forward to see if this program work and to help our restaurants and bodegas and beauty shops to stay keep their doors open. This was tremendous help for our community. I really do love this program a lot.
Yes, and that revitalization fund, the application process has already started, so you can go to sba.gov/restaurants and apply right online. Those are grants, right? They're not loans. Grants up to $10 million, and they're targeted to our small business, our family restaurants. These aren't restaurants, the big chains. These are our local restaurants. So please check out that program. All right, let's go to the next question. It's for you again, Representative Hogan. I mentioned earlier how the American Rescue Plan finally delivered the relief necessary to state and local governments. And I know this is something you and I have talked about so many times as, we worked in Washington to get this package across the finish line. Would you mind sharing with the folks tuning in why state and local aid is so important for the Commonwealth and for the communities you represent?
I believe, and I know that you believe as well, Congresswoman, that our federal and state dollars will be used in every aspect of the lives of those in the Commonwealth. It provides relief and it provides support. And I see this funding as the hand of recovery, which should be touching so many lives moving forward. It stabilizes our economy. It's an investment in working with our students, creating 21st century infrastructure, and again, creating jobs and looking to ensure that we serve our parents and students by wisely using $8 billion in direct aid that the state and local governments in Massachusetts, and also the federal stimulus, an additional $1.8 billion for K through 12 education. Our students have really been through it all the way up and down our grades, and I know that we're making investments that show we care, we're listening, we're going to be there for our students as we move forward.
Oh, such great points. And it was the piece that was long overdue. We had trouble getting that into the package last year, and it made it into the American Rescue Plan. And that money's starting to flow to communities now, which is so important because the state and local aid piece that allows us to keep our first responders and our teachers on the payroll, on the job, and that certainly helps backfill all those expenses that were spent providing more services with less revenue coming in. This is going to actually make those budgets whole. So great examples there. So Representative Moran, you and I have talked about this a lot. Our community health centers, like the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center, they've been incredible examples of how we can reach historically underserved communities as we respond to COVID-19, predominantly Spanish-speaking communities like Lawrence. Can you talk about the importance of the investments the American Rescue Plan made in our community health centers and more generally in our vaccine distribution?
Thanks for the question. As you know, the city of Lawrence and other Spanish-speaking communities have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. This relief provided the American Rescue Plan through its $6.6 billion investment in health centers across the United States. This will bolster the efforts of organizations like the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center to prevent, mitigate, and respond to the evolving needs within our community as it pertains to COVID-19. And as you know, further, this relief improves communication to strengthen confidence in the vaccine by serving non-English-speaking individuals and allow them to make the direct outreach within communities such as Lawrence, especially with our local vaccine distribution. As you know, Laurie, Greater Lawrence Family Health Center has, with their mobile unit, they go to every housing projects and provide the vaccines with no questions asked. You don't even need an appointment. They just went to them, and they were able to do this because of this funding. This was great for them, and I really the job that they're doing is tremendous.
And that's what we need to do now, right? We're seeing, the vaccination rates as we continue to watch it grow. It's important that we are more targeted than ever, right? That we're looking at the data and we're going to where people are. And sometimes it's going to be hesitancy. Sometimes it's going to be because we're having trouble finding the people who need the information to get that appointment, or folks are working 2 jobs and they can't get to the mass vaccination site. And so these community health centers have been so scrappy, right? They're using, like you said, Representative Moran, these mobile units to go right to communities. They're using community partners. And that is how you close the disparity gap in our healthcare and our vaccination. There used to be a time when people didn't talk about community health centers as being, on the front line of closing these healthcare disparities. Now everybody in Washington knows exactly how valuable they are. So we're so grateful to Greater Lawrence Family Health Center and to all our community health centers. Okay, moving on to our next question. Representative Hogan, last month you and I stopped by the Hudson Rail Trail Company to highlight the importance of the American Rescue Plan's investments in small businesses, especially our restaurants. I've been using my platform to encourage restaurants in need of additional financial relief to take advantage of the brand new Restaurant Revitalization Fund created in the American Rescue Plan. And I'd love to give you the opportunity to share what the state has done to further assist our small businesses across the Commonwealth.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, because, things have been so hectic. It's almost a maelstrom, both while we were in the pandemic and now as we begin to walk our way out of it carefully, cautiously, knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But, the legislature has taken consistent action to help support businesses, workers, our most vulnerable since the beginning of the pandemic. Beginning with us being able to come back to session through remote voting. And the House passed legislation to prevent steep increases in unemployment insurance rates, offered paid sick leave to workers, also paid sick leave to get vaccinated. We passed legislation to delay the income tax filing deadline, I think twice. And that again is hand in glove with our federal partners are trying to make sure and ensure that everything that is happening on your side in efforts to assist are happening on our side. We've also helped restaurants by allowing to-go purchase of mixed drinks. From that to providing bonding of $20 million that we've been able to distribute throughout Massachusetts to provide restaurants with COVID-19 recovery grants. We also authorized $110 million on local economic development projects. So this funding came out on top of the millions more in target initiatives that are even more sort of drilled down, I won't get into, but it really helped to maintain and even to some extent jumpstart the economy as we start to move forward, especially in supporting our small business and workforce retention and jobs, as well as things like our tourism industry. So we have been on it since the beginning. We've also felt that everything we can do, we must do to ensure. And I think that one of the things that's really amazing is that our last budget we passed has avoided any drastic cuts on the state level and showed growth. We did this while also investing in all of the key pandemic response to programs, housing relief, small business, stabilizing cities and towns. These gains are possible due to stronger than expected revenues, but also federal monies, federal funding, and our many years of fiscally responsible leadership. We had a rainy day fund to use, we used it, and I think that we're in a better position than many states, but also look with great gratitude to the federal government for the assistance we've had through this year.
Yeah. Well, we're very happy to deliver that federal assistance. It came in different forms, but this last tranche of state aid and local aid, I think, is going to really make the difference, because you have, filled in a lot of gaps. Often didn't know which plate was up in the air that you were juggling, but thank you for that. That is a true partnership that we have. So I want to be respectful of your time, and I'm so grateful for both of you joining us. So this will likely be our last question, Representative Moran, for you. Getting our schools reopened to in-person learning has been a top priority for all of us. But each of us know the importance of making sure that we do it in a way that prioritizes the safety of our students and our educators. Can you talk about the importance of the investments in the American Rescue Plan that have helped get schools in your district reopened, and the need for the federal government to continue playing a role in upgrading our schools, including the air filtration systems that have been a huge focus during the pandemic?
As you know, protecting the public health of our students and teachers is of the utmost importance to me. And the passage of the ARP plan has alleviated some lingering concerns that I have had regarding a return in-person learning.
Yeah.
As you know, the ARP allocated approximately $1.8 billion in educational funding to Massachusetts that will help reduce the class sizes, improve the ventilation system within our schools, provide personal protective equipment for students and faculty, and find other initiatives needed to support the safe reopening of our schools. As you know, this funding will also allow our schools to fund critical summer and after-school programming that many at-risk students in the city of Lawrence rely upon. It would allow schools to hire additional nurses to keep classrooms safe. It's going to provide for social distances and safety protocols on buses, and will provide additional Wi-Fi hotspots and devices to students who may not have access today to these resources at home. Most importantly, this funding will equip all of our schools with the ability to provide increased social, emotional, and mental health to support our students who have dealt with this enormous traumatizing year due to the COVID pandemic. I'm also pleased that the American Rescue Plan includes funding to expand free and reduce healthy school meals to assist students in my community who will be struggling with food insecurity at home, an issue that, as you know, and most of you know, many families here, especially in low-income communities or community of colors, are struggling with.
Yeah.
I want to thank the Biden administration, yourself, and our Democratic lawmakers who prioritize these needs of our students. And I would like to thank you again for ensuring the American Rescue Plan will help all of those communities all across the Commonwealth.
You bet. It's nice to have an administration right now that's prioritizing, families. And we're going to have so much more to talk about as we start to debate and move through the Congress, the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan. So I'll be sure to have both of you back. But I just want to say once again, thank you. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experience with all of us. Of course, thank you for everybody who tuned in and your commitment to staying informed. One thing that I just don't want to forget, because it's important for so many families, the American Rescue Plan expanded the child tax credit for the first time in far too long. It increased the value up to $3,600 and making it fully refundable so that millions of families can access the full value of the credit. And for the first time ever, the credit will be paid out in monthly installments starting in July and going all the way through December, meaning the tax credit will help serve as a lifeline for families struggling to make ends meet. You don't have to wait for that annual tax filing. So we've heard a lot during this conversation about the progress that we've made in the fight against COVID. And there's no question that we have come such a long way in just these past 6 months, but we're not completely out of the woods yet. The American Rescue Plan has made it so that every American adult can get vaccinated. And 6 mass vaccination sites will start taking walk-up appointments next week, and CVS stores are also taking walk-ups. We have the ability to crush COVID-19 and put it behind us, something we absolutely need to do as we see variants devastating other countries around the world. But that does require everyone to do their part. And for most of us, that means getting vaccinated as soon as possible. So if you or a loved one haven't gotten your shot yet, please head over to vaxfinder.mass.gov. That's vaxfinder.mass.gov to find out the nearest location to get vaccinated today. We're all in this together, and getting as many people vaccinated as possible is key to saving lives and finally being able to hug our loved ones again. So thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you to our incredible guests, and I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. Stay safe and get your vaccine.
Same to you, Laurie. Thank you.